Okay, let us continue where we, let me just adjust the microphone, where we left off the last time. In the last lesson, we've completed this hand sculpt, or at least the basic shape made of primitives, and today we will finish the project. We will collapse this geometry. Hold on a second, I'll turn off all my messengers, like so. We will collapse this geometry, and basically we will produce the final version of the sculpt. And again, I will probably spend no more than an hour on this little project because it's really just an educational project. So looking at this, what I need to do is to find a smart way to produce the final geometry, because there are difficult areas here, like for instance this part where the pinky is bending so much that it makes it difficult to sculpt in this crevice. But I still need to complete the sculpt of the finger itself, the pinky. So what do I do about it? My idea is that, by the way, I wanted to fix slightly, just looking at it with a fresh eye, just want to slightly adjust some shapes here and there, like so, something like that. My idea, the way I want to approach it, is to, each element is, each digit, each part of the sculpt is an individual element, and I want the way I want to approach it is I want to first combine not the entire hand into a single element, but I want to go sequentially. I will isolate the pinky first, and I do that because I have a long stack of elements here, lots and lots of elements, and I want to collapse only the pinky into a single element, and to do that I move all the elements of this finger up in the stack. That way I know that I know which elements to merge. It will be easier that way, right? So now let me restore. For some reason Zbrush tends to restore custom UI. It tends to break my custom UI from time to time, and I have to restore it manually. Zbrush does have quirks here and there. Merge down, okay. Merge down, okay. And again, merge down. And here we have the pinky. And now if I want, I can hide the rest of the model, and I can just focus on this element, this finger. And I will do the same for every single finger. So bear with me, it will be a little tedious, but I'll try to entertain you with me talking. It's morning, I don't have my coffee because there is no coffee in the house. I forgot to buy my coffee yesterday and also the day before, so I'm drinking tea, which I also don't have right now because I have just finished my tea right before the recording. Okay, do I need this part here? Maybe not. I have these circles which represent the knuckles, and when it comes to the pinky, I think that it is a good idea to collapse it with the knuckle into a single element, because the knuckle is not that prominent, and it's more it relates more, I think, to the pinky. But here I will probably leave the knuckle as part of the palm. So I will move it down, and just to make sure I have all the elements, select them sequentially, and I merge them down. There will be also a sped up version of this video, of course, because I understand I made a mistake. Not all people want to watch it in real time. You see, I made one merge operation too many, and now I have these two fingers merged together. Something I don't want to have, but it is really not a problem, because all I have to do is to just split them apart. And to do that, I need to group them, like so. Group visible and group visible. Now they are, each is its own polygroup, and now I go group split, and everything is okay. Now I will do the same thing for this finger, and when it comes to the thumb, I will not separate it into a separate element, probably because there is plenty of space to sculpt right now. So, well, you'll see. But what I was going to say was that once this sculpt is complete, and by the way, I didn't look at the time to establish the length of the recording. Roughly, okay, I have something like 50 minutes left, probably. Okay, I've already collapsed on this one. As previously, I will give you the actual file, and I am also considering recording a different video once this entire mini project is complete. I will prepare this model for 3D printing, because I do have a 3D printer. I use it a lot, and I prepare models for 3D printing all the time. And once it is printed, maybe I will give it to my wife, who will paint it. She's good with that. And you will see this project from start to finish, from the sculpt to the actual 3D printed and painted sculpt of the hand in real world. And yeah, and you will be able to print it yourself if you want to. So what do we have right now? We have, and again, because I'm talking, I'm constantly making these mistakes. Group split, I should be more careful. Even when I'm not talking, it is often I make these mistakes when I need to combine different elements into a single model. I do make these mistakes from time to time, but most of the time they're easy to fix. In the instances where they are not easy to fix, I always have backup files, which I will, by the way, create right now. Version 7, as you can see, I always put a digit number next to the file name, actually 2 numbers, to keep track of the versions, because when I sculpt a complicated model, for instance, like right now, I'm sculpting a robot for a game, and I'm now approaching 100th version of the file. So it's pretty normal to have lots and lots. You can delete them later, it's not a problem. So now I can, for instance, go in and sculpt this finger individually, but before I do that, I collapse the rest of the model also into a complete mesh, a merged model. And I will then go and use Dynamesh on all of them. Merge down. Also, I'm a little slow right now. I'm not a I'm usually more eloquent, slightly. Right now it is morning and I'm not, I just woke up really. Didn't have a breakfast or anything, and like I said, I have no coffee in the house. My brother is coming over and I think I will ask him to buy me coffee because I don't want to go, god damn it, to go out. I made this mistake again. For Christ's sake. Group visible, group split. Again, I'm not careful enough, I guess. Okay, something like that. Hope it is correct. Merge down. Okay, and now I need to add this little things. Or, because when you are working on something, on anything creative, by the way, many people listen to music, and it's really not advisable. I strongly advise you against listening to any type of music or anything really while you're working. Only when you completely sure that the task at hand is tedious. And in our line of work, it rarely is. For instance, right now, I'm considering this. What if I just merge the knuckles with the hand at the very last moment? I'm trying to picture the steps I will take. Merge down. The steps I will take. With this model, I'm trying to talk and think at the same time. That's why I rarely record real-time videos, actually. Anyway, let me do just that. And the reason I came up with this idea is because I'm not listening to anything. I'm thinking, even though I'm talking to you, it's still better than listening to fucking music. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm swearing, but I'm swearing in real life. Maybe I should swear here as well. Anyway, now we are going to Dynamesh, and the thing about Dynamesh, and let me save this version as well because I save compulsively. The thing about Dynamesh is that it really depends the density of the mesh you get. Like here I press Dynamesh and it is pretty dense. It depends on the scale of the model inside the program. But when you start, you rarely know the scale of your model because Zbrush by default doesn't have any measurements on the screen. So you have to eyeball your way through Dynamesh, and I will probably try something like 56. A little too dense, maybe. No, I like at the early stage when the mesh is not very dense, like this. Take a look. Each polygon is clearly visible, right? And it is good. The most basic mistake that newbies make in ZBrush, they start with very dense meshes. So I can start by sculpting this first, and then I will go and sculpt the fingers. And again, it will be sketchy. I'm using the tool which most artists use at this stage. It's clay tubes. Why? Because clay tubes and also the shift, which is the smooth operation, it works very well with meshes which are of approximately this density. And the smooth operation, it works a lot like I don't know, gently warming up and gently sculpting clay with your fingers, because other brushes, they are much more harsh. So what we have here is we have to be very mindful of our anatomy again. And I think I will take, I'm looking at it right now and looking at my finger right now, and I'm trying to figure out what should I do. I will probably take a lasso. Where is it? And I will move it slightly, just ever so slightly here. So I have some space. Oh, Jesus, I think I might not make it within an hour. We'll see. Because you have to remember that a thumb is just a regular finger, like I said in the previous video, but the difference is that it starts right at the wrist. It is not connected to the palm of your hand. It is connected to the wrist. And I'm very sketchy right now. Very, very sketchy. And you should also be very sketchy at the early stage. Like so. You can smooth it out later at any point. That is not a problem. Also, there is an open question of and the move operation. So basically I use the move tool, right? Something like that, to give it some dynamic shapes. Clay polish and just regular smoothing operation at this stage. There is a question of fingernails, because there are basically two ways you can do fingernails, right, at this stage. And there is webbing, yeah, I like to pronounce it, webbing, between the thumb and the palm, which each time the thumb is in some extreme position, the webbing gets stretched. I also like to move the brush along the lines and of the muscles, of what I perceive as muscle fibers, to give it more life, right? And you have to be, again, very mindful of the indentations, crevices, ups and downs of anything anatomical, really, that you're sculpting. See, it's already looking like something, right? I will be very, very sketchy. Maybe, well, I don't know where the sculpt will be by the time I'm finished with it, really. And this part here of the, and by the way, I forgot this part. Let's just merge it in. I didn't merge it previously and I just noticed that. And let's just merge it into the hand, like so, merge down. Boom. And right now it is a separate element, but we do the Dynamesh operation. Maybe I will just increase just ever so slightly the density. Okay, like so I don't lose all my progress. Mesh is slightly denser right now, but it is okay, because what I was going to say is that the forearm has this rather weird shape, because the muscle masses on the bones, and the bones itself, there are two bones in the forearm which are twisting in relation to one another to allow for the rotation of the hand, and it's populated with muscles, lots of different muscles which control different fingers, and that creates a rather peculiar muscle masses around the two bones which are twisting. Therefore, it's kind of difficult sometimes to grasp the shape, but it is something like that, because it gets denser and meatier towards the not the thumb, surprisingly, but towards the pinky. And I will also add some wrinkles, because you have to be mindful of wrinkles here and there. A bit later, I will start using them standard brush to get some creases in. And wrinkles, I'm looking, it's really helpful to look at my own hand. You know what? I will start using them standard right now. Them standard is this really cool brush which lets you do this, right? Damn it. This. It's kind of helpful with wrinkles sometimes, right? Because it is all skin, and you need to think about it. Like, so that's the reason why we are using the and there will be slight bump here. It's usually not very noticeable at this position, but I'm adding it just for the visual interest. What I was talking about, yeah, it is all skin, and that is the reason why we're using a simple brush like clay polish. And we are, yeah, I don't like it under this angle at all. And I'll use my move tool a little bit first to adjust it. Something like so. It's like, again, using your fingers on a piece of clay. That's why Zbrush is so popular. It's very much like clay, right? I have something like 40 minutes left, and I need to sculpt those fingers in that time. Okay, let me start with a simple one, which is this one, the index finger. Let's collapse it first. I will isolate and collapse it first. And I will use something like 40, because I've already tested that it works well on this scale, like so. And now, it's always more fun to sculpt and to draw the hands of the older people, because they are so much more interesting. Their joints are thicker and lots of wrinkles, and the artists love that. It's actually very boring for an artist, most of the time, not always, to draw a young and pretty person, because it's just so young, pretty people, they look similar. And old people are all different. There are so many ways you can age, because your body is falling apart and you are just, wow, what's going on? And artists, they latch onto it and they just draw the hell out of them. That's what's going on. Something like that. I have to look at it from all different directions. And there is a fair amount of stylization going on here, right? Lots of stylization. I'm stylizing this sucker. Let's see, with the up. Where is it? Where is it? Yeah, something like that, right? And later it will be absolutely no problem to merge them together. It just will be like a breeze. Just and again, I'm setting a limit for myself at like I said, an hour, 40 minutes, maybe an hour and a half, something like that. I just I have things to do, you know. We're making a game right now, and I try to spend weekends. It's Sunday, I think, right now. What day is it today? I don't even know. Probably Sunday, because I work at home. So we're making a game, and I want to get back because I'm sculpting an interesting thing for the game right now. And by the way, the drone on this channel, I have the whole series of videos where I'm making a drone character from scratch. It is not yet finished. I'll get back to it, but it's a character from the game too. But interestingly enough, I get the most positive responses. Let me switch to a different finger, like this one. Most positive responses for anatomical videos on this channel. Let me save a newer version now. Isn't that... Actually, it is not strange, is it? It's pretty... I was, when I first started the channel, I was not completely sure what I will be talking about on this channel. Well, I knew I was going to talk about art-related topics, but each channel has to have a theme. And it turns out that for this channel, 40 again, Dynamesh. For this channel, anatomy can be a theme. It can be the main theme of this channel, because I started by putting all sort of different things on this channel, including my 2D animation experiments. I'm primarily a 3D animator. I'm actually primarily an animator. I'm not a sculptor. I just do sculpting as well, because when you are serious about animation, it's like Steve Jobs said about electronics. If you are serious about software, you should make your own hardware. Same thing here. With 2D animation, it was a no-brainer, because in 2D animation you draw your own characters. But in 3D animation, most animators just given a rig, and then they are just stuck with that rig. And lots of animation portfolios on the web, and the ones which people submit to studios, is just same free characters from the web. It gets sick. People get sick of that. And I always wanted maximum control over my animation. That's why I got into Zbrush, into 3D modeling first. It was a long time ago, 20 years ago. I started my first experiments with 3D modeling in 3ds Max. Back then it was 3ds Max version 4 or something like that. And I was just moving vertices and slicing polygons all day long. I remember I was a teenager. And now we have Zbrush, and I've been working in Zbrush for almost 15 years. Probably not even almost, it's like 15 years, yeah. And I'm not a terribly sophisticated sculptor. I just I like to get the job done, so the character is okay for animation, so I can animate the character and just move on. So I do my own characters, I do my own rigs, and I am just I've subdivided the mesh, because I find that the smaller finger doesn't give me enough density to sculpt anymore. And I also forgot to mention the inflate brush, very useful. And Dem standard here to just accentuate the, where is it? Dem standard, here it is. Those wrinkles, right? Just so it goes deeper. So the way you do wrinkles actually in Zbrush, you use something like Dem standard brush, and then you just put a inflate on top of it. And that way you'll get really good wrinkles like this, right? And I also was talking, before I got carried away talking about my biography and things like that, I was talking about fingernails, right? Fingernails. You have to be mindful of the way you will be doing fingernails. Because there are two ways to do fingernails. One is to make the nails separate elements, right? That's not a bad way. And if this would be a character for animation, I would probably go in that direction, right? Take a look at this. It already looks like something, right? I would go in that direction. But here, and note that the fingers, they get progressively harder to sculpt because of this, because they bent more and more progressively as we move towards the pinky. And that's okay. That's why we separated them. Before, if we wouldn't have this finger as a separate element, it would be very, very difficult, trust me. I made this mistake many times. Oh, and I pressed the wrong button. Sorry about that. Zero measure. I don't need zero measure yet. I will need it a little bit later. Dynamesh. And again, I can use like smooth brush at first, and then I just move to clay tubes. Clay tubes. No one came up with anything better than clay tubes in 15 years, really. It's a very old brush, like most ZBrush brushes, which are most commonly used. It's a pretty old one, and still the best. Like I always say, if the technology, all the visual art technology stops developing, like if this ZBrush version, this is not the latest one. But even if it were, even if it was the latest one, if ZBrush just died and there would be no more versions of ZBrush, I think it would still be the most popular application. I certainly think that a reasonable artist really does not need most of the tools inside most of the applications. Certainly Photoshop could have stopped. At least we don't need a new version of Photoshop each year. Anyway, I was talking about fingernails. One way is to have fingernails as separate elements. The other one is to just try to sculpt fingernails on top of the... and note how rough I am, that's okay. On top of the this geometry. And I will probably do that. I will just sculpt it using damn standard brush, something like that. Because... it's faster right now. I want to make this sculpt. I don't want to spend a tremendous amount of time on this sculpt because I just want to move on. Aside from me having things to do, I just want to not to turn it into a long series of lessons. We have things to, if I decide to turn this channel into an primarily anatomical channel talking about anatomy and things like that, we will have to go through different body parts. We might want to sculpt the pectoral muscles, the chest muscles. I'm certainly looking forward to sculpting female breasts because I like breasts, and most artists don't know how to draw sculpt them. They do breasts as if they were balloons, and it just makes me sick. So we might want to touch on that. But anyway, fingernails is something I will be doing at the very, very last moment. Once I have the topology down, once I have merged the entire thing into a single thing, like so. Right, and this one probably is a little too long. So things which were not apparent at the stage where this was a rough compilation of individual elements, those things, they look more obvious now when I'm sculpting it. Something like that, right? Something like that. And I'm jumping from element to element, trying to accentuate the forms here and there. And the gaps between fingers make the hand look more interesting. And there will also be webbing between fingers at a later point, and I need to leave space for that, right? But it's very convenient that we have the pose pretty much entirely down, right? It's better this way. Because posing and sculpting, like if I would start with a sphere, I talked about it in the previous lesson, Oh, it would be difficult. It would take forever. So the reason we go through all these stages where we start to work with primitives first is just really to save time. Right. Something like that. Already looks like something. And now to the hardest one, which is of course the pinky. And where the hell is pinky? Here it is, little devil. Happy little pinky, look at it. He's just sitting there. Oh, that pinky. Okay, Dynamesh 40. Dynamesh, and here we go. I'll try to close the gaps here and there. And I want to maintain this like slightly skewed shape of the finger because it looks dynamic. I like it. And I will use move operation again in conjunction. Just again to recap the brushes which I use move brush, obviously. It's a very good one. I use clay tubes at the early stage to get the shapes, smaller shapes down. And like right now I'm using the move operation a lot, you see, a lot. Then I use the damn standard brush for creases and wrinkles and things like that, and the inflate brush to stress, to like to give wrinkles some additional, how should I put it, to give the wrinkles more volume. Probably volume is the right word. So I can try use the inflate brush here on the joints, by the way, like so, and they already look a little better. Inflate brush is a very primitive brush. It just moves the polygons along their normal vectors. Just it pushes the polygons outwards, and that is all it is doing. And it is good enough. It's good enough for us. Right. I'm also sculpting on a Wacom display, right? And for ZBrush, Wacom is not as necessary as for drawing, for line work, but it is still nice. It's just nicer to work on a pen display, in my opinion. I'm so sick of not working on regular tablets. I've been working. I have my old tablet on a shelf right behind me. It was purchased, I believe, in 2005, 16 years ago. It was my first major tablet. Also Wacom, of course. But the fact that it is so old and it is still working, it tells you something about Wacom. And about me not buying a newer tablet in 16 years. In 15 years. This Cintiq, I purchased it last year. And I also had a smaller Cintiq at some point, but there is really no reason to have a smaller Cintiq. Just a budget version which makes no sense. You buy a tablet display so you can have more space to draw lines. If it is a smaller pen display, it just all it did, it killed my neck because I had to hunch over it. Dem standard, again, going here with dem standard. And the inflate brush. Okay. Let me just work a little bit on this knuckle. Just very, very up very roughly, something like that, because like I said, for the pinky the knuckle is not very visible, but it is somewhat visible, a little visible. Let me work here. I'll add more. Now I'm working on the main palm. I'm adding a divide here, right? Because before I'm about to merge the fingers in, right? And before I do that, I just want to work on the space between the fingers a little, right? Because later on it will be not as easy. Something like that. Again, looking at my finger, there is a bunch of wrinkles here under the pinky. And here. And here. Those wrinkles, they are sort of cascading down. Again, I'm very, very rough. The rougher the better. So you are not focusing on something very specific right now. It's not the time for that. But as a whole, you can see that we are getting somewhere, right? We're getting somewhere. And it takes time, like, you know, when you start drawing first, like you woke up in the morning and like, I want to do some drawings, and you take a pencil or whatever you're drawing with, and it takes some time to sort of get in the proper state of mind for drawing. It is called warm-up. You do a bunch of warm-up drawings. So right now I feel I'm somewhat warmed up already, and I can just sculpt with a little bit more confidence, right? Something like this. And let's think about the webbing now. The webbing, because just hold on, just in a second I will be talking about the webbing. And I will move this one a little to this side, because it is important. And the webbing, it is sorry about that, just move the color slider. The webbing exists here on the inside, like right here, and it goes from one finger to the next one, creating additional wrinkles, right? It's very important to take that into account. Something like that. And look, it looks pretty dynamic, does it not? And I want to put lots of accents, like most of the time human hands. That's why I started talking about the old people hands being more interesting. Most of the time human hands don't have those bones protruding so much, but I want to make it more prominent, because it makes it more interesting, right? Something like that. And what I will do now, I will probably save it, right, as a new version, because I will collapse it right now. And I prefer to save before every major operations. One reason would be because I want backup. The other, because what if Zbrush crashes? It very rarely crashes on merging operations, but who knows. And I will also unhide the knuckles right now, and I will adjust them slightly, because they are very large right now. I will take the move brush, I will turn on the topological button, which I have right here, and I will just make them of a more appropriate shape and size. Something like here. And actually, the important thing about them, looking at my hand right now, I realize that they are hardly visible in this position, because knuckles become visible when you squeeze your hand into a knuckle. But when you raise your fingers, like so, knuckles almost disappear. So I will make them very, very small. Right? Something like that. More like a continuation of the bone or a tendon. Because tendons they're running along the bones here, right? In this fashion. That's an interesting thing about anatomy, is that the body, the human body, any animal body, so flexible, and it changes its shape so much depending on the pose, the shape of the muscles. You can never be completely sure. You can spend your entire life working with anatomy, and you, for the most part, will not be able to guess, at least perfectly, what shape it will take. In any given pose. So now, merge visible. Merge visible. And when I press merge visible, it doesn't merge the actual tools, it creates a copy. This is, by the way, how it used to look. This is how it looks now. Used to look, looks now. Used to look like this, then like this, then like this. Interesting progression. Take a look at this. Boom, boom. So it creates a copy, like here. And it is pretty detailed already, so I will have to work with topology a little bit, and I will explain it as I go. 80, resolution 80 Dynamesh. This resolution is sufficient to preserve all those elements, right? All the things that I sculpted. But it is a little too dense, maybe. Actually, it is not, but let's assume that it is. A little too dense for comfortable sculpting. And it's a good rule of thumb, this particular one, to have subdivision levels anytime you sculpt anything, especially something organic. So I've used Dynamesh and I've created a pretty dense mesh. I will add a subdivision level, even though right now I don't need it. I will go then to the first subdivision level, freeze it, and now I will do Dynamesh again, but this time with something like 60 maybe, to create a less dense mesh. And then unfreeze subdivision level, and it will project all the details, and now I have subdivision levels. I'm going fast through this, I know, but on this channel I have a separate video which explains how you add lower subdivision levels to a model, and that is exactly what I did right now. So if you are confused, please refer to that video. You will find it easily, I think. So what is going on here? Knuckle will be almost completely gone. I can now sculpt across the entire thing. Completely gone, and instead we will have some wrinkles going here, right? Let me take a smaller brush. Here. Like so. From between the fingers. I will use now the smoothing operation to smooth it, and then sculpt again, then smooth again, and sculpt again. Something like that, because this last stage actually takes a long time. Let me go to a lower level. It's longer than the earlier stages where we're just working very roughly. Something like that, right? And I know that because I'm looking at my hand right now and I'm seeing it. Here the knuckle will also be hardly seen, but there will not be as many wrinkles, though there will be a few. Something like that again. I'm very happy that I have a lower subdivision level because it's easier to sculpt here. I will go upwards slightly on the upper subdivision level, and maybe I even will add one more, but at the final stage when I will have to finalize the model, make it smooth, etc., etc. Something like so. I'm going between the fingers, putting some accents on the webbing, like so, right, and smoothing it. Wow, it looks like something. Okay, here it will not look like this, it will be smoother here, so I'm using the smooth brush, right, then standard brush, where is it, to stress this area. And the rest of this project is really just honing it, going in and making sure everything is in the right place. And each time after the Dynamesh operation, you lose the finer details most of the time, especially the creases, like here between the fingers. Makes sense to add them. I will go in and I will add them everywhere, right? Something like that. And it is a little harder to work right now because everything is merged, and each time I turn the model, something gets in the way. But yeah, it is the final stage. And I have a serious suspicion that I might not be able to do this thing within an hour like I hoped I would. Right? But what are you gonna do, right? I should spend a little more time on this thumb. Again, it's very stylized. I'm looking at my thumb and it is slightly different. But my goal is to make it not just like my thumb, I want to make it interesting. And when you are working on the model of right density, when the density is correct and it is comfortable to sculpt, you can change the effect of a given brush by changing its size easily. It looks okay. What do you think? Again, with any creative thing, be it model or animation, especially something anatomical, it really, the work never ends. You can spend days improving the model, really, if that is your goal. But my goal here is to do it relatively quickly. I don't want to spend days on this. And the better modeler, let me put it this way, a sign of a good modeler is the ability to work quickly. A good modeler will just do a good sculpt, but a great modeler, let me put it this way, it will he or she will do the work quickly, because a person is so comfortable with the tools and with anatomy and things like that. I'll use Trim Dynamic to get some better results here. Trim Dynamic is another brush I use a lot on both anatomical and hard surface projects, models, because it gives you the edge sometimes. If you press hard enough, it will give you a very hard edge. If you are more delicate, like I'm here, it just makes it cleaner, right? And here we have the thumb. Now a little clay polish to just stress the wrinkles a little. And I will probably move this joint inward slightly. Because when thumb is in a position like this, the joint can be hardly seen, right? Also, I would like to, I'm still under the impression that I need to use the lasso tool and move it more. There's still not enough space, like so. Right. That looks better, I think, because I'll add some more mass to the joint. Lots of little things now, you know, little anatomical things. Because in this position it bends inwards, the thumb. Something, yeah. And you have to be mindful of all the angles, like here. Okay, and more webbing between this area, like so. And this webbing should be a little closer together. And not just that, actually. It will go over the shape here, like so. Yeah. Really interesting situation here. Sorry, I'm getting quieter and quieter because I'm thinking, basically, trying to figure it all out. It's the harder part of the project, but it is also fun part of the project. And I'm sculpting and speaking at the same time, doesn't make it easier. And yeah, this part has to be straight because it is a stretched skin, like so. And this part has to be more bulky because the skin presses on it, right? So I will have to use the inflate brush, I guess. Sorry, not just inflate brush. I will have to do something like so. Add more mass here. It's an interesting, if you're interested in anatomy, it's a very interesting exploration, I would say. And you should not be afraid to just resculpt certain areas. If something is not working properly, I realize that I need wrinkles here, right? Quite a few wrinkles here. Wrinkles that go over the thumb because the skin is stretched in some areas and is bulking in some other areas. Okay, and I will even use standard brush here to move it inwards slightly, because I realize that the shape is not entirely correct. And I will work with the clay on top of it. The tendon. The thing is that the tendon here is very thick. So we have a tendon, and we also have wrinkles. And we need to somehow put them all together, right? And you have to accept a certain degree of stylization. Okay, something wrong is here. Now I'll have to figure it out. It goes underneath. So not like this, but rather like this. Each person's hands are slightly different, but or not slightly, just very different. But the major wrinkles in certain poses, I think, will be the same always. And the wrinkles is the way we show that in a given situation, this element is under stress. I think now we're getting somewhere, don't you think? Okay, something, and here we will not have a wrinkle here. Instead, we will have a joint protruding like this. Oh, not as much. I will bring it down momentarily with clay tubes. It's easier to go a little further than necessary and then to bring it back, right? Bring it back. And I will take trim dynamic again. I'll trim here and there. now we have, well, it is not completely done yet, obviously. And you know what? I will probably stop right now because this video is getting awfully long. It's over an hour already. And I still have things to do here. Like I need to go through every single finger and make sure the wrinkles are in the right places, right? And that alone will take probably another hour. Yeah. So I'll stop here, and I will publish two versions of this video. I will have the real-time version, as always, and the sped-up version too. So in the next video, we will definitely finish this sculpt. See you then.